Good. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Capa Nova, the Chinese American Parent Association of Northern Virginia, I'd like to warmly welcome you to our tonight's seminar. We're very happy for you to join us tonight. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Capa Nova is a volunteer-based nonprofit organization. We're dedicated to promoting equal rights and opportunities for Chinese Americans on all fronts. In the past 4 years, we had the privilege to host more than 800 events on a wide range of topics, from parent-student relations to saving tax strategies to fitness and even gardening. You name it, we've done it. And above all, the heart of our organization is our members and volunteers. If you're not already a member yet, we would highly encourage you to check us out and join us in making a positive difference.
我看200什么是
Oh, 大家 mute 一下自己好不好？ Could you mute yourself? 谢谢哈。Tonight's seminar is especially exciting because this topic, I believe, is top of mind for many of us, including both parents and students. And tonight we're really lucky to have somebody who's gone through the process himself and very successfully. And also he's also helped some other kids to have gone through this process. So before I bring him up, introduce him, I'd like to quickly introduce my wonderful co-host, the student co-host tonight, William Tian. William is a high schooler. He's from Langley High School, even though he's only second year, sophomore, but his list of achievements is not short. He's been part of the Langley High School crew team, award-winning crew team, and he's part of the marching band. He plays the French horn. He's part of the school's TSA club, and he just recently won first place in the Technology Student Association competition and advancing to the state level. Congratulations, William. He is also the president of Fairfax chapter of a nonprofit organization called ALIS. It's Alliance of Youth Leadership for US. He himself has been so actively involved in Capa Nova's events as well. In the past few years, you could always see him at our all kinds of activities or events as a volunteer or contributor, being whether it's videotaping for us, making video clips, or being the MC for our activities. And he himself has won the Gold Award, the Presidential Gold Service Award 2 years in a row. So without further ado, I'm gonna have William take over and introduce our guest, Alex. And another reason William is so fitting to be the co-host is because, a fun fact, Alex and William, they're related. So Alex Tao, as a matter of fact, is William's very accomplished cousin. All right, William, please take over.
So hi everybody, my name is William, and so I'm going to be briefly introducing Alex so we can get started with our seminar. So I'm really excited to introduce Alex Tao, who's here to share his valuable insights and experiences with us. Alex is a fourth-year undergraduate student at Princeton University, originally from Florida, and he graduated from Haggerty High School in 2021. At Princeton, he's majoring in mathematics with minors in computer science, Chinese, and statistics and machine learning. This May, Alex will be graduating and starting his career as a software engineer at Amazon, which is an amazing achievement. Today, he's here to talk to us about his journey through college admissions, particularly as a former Chinese American high school student. His story is both inspiring and relatable, and I'm sure we can all learn a lot from his experiences. So without further ado, let's introduce Alex Tao to the stage.
Hello, I'm gonna share my presentation slides, so let me know if
Please
there's
do.
any issues. Yeah, can you see everything?
It's bringing up right now. Yes, we can see it.
That's good?
Looks good.
Great. Okay, so I'll get started. All right. Hello, everyone. As my cousin just introduced, my name is Alex Tao. I'll be speaking tonight on a variety of different topics, most of which concern the college admissions process. I'll talk a lot about my own experience, some of my thoughts about what it looks like today, sort of standing out in the sea of very high achieving Asian American students in the United States. So a little bit about myself. I think William already said I'm a graduating senior. So in about a month and a half, I will be done with college. I'm taking a major in math. I have some minors. Princeton actually doesn't allow students to take double majors. So that's what some students do. Like they'll stack minors to accommodate for that. So that's what I did. And then post-grad, I'll be working as a software engineer in Seattle for Amazon Web Services. I did internship with them this past summer and got a return offer. So, yep, I've dabbled with college admissions and consulting, essay writing, application strategy over the last few years. I've talked with my friends a lot about this kind of thing, on and off over the last couple months, especially. So yeah, this presentation, I guess we'll get right into it. Is slated towards applications sent towards top 10, top 20 schools. Something I discussed with William in line yesterday was that maybe it would have been more appropriate to have this presentation next week because Ivy Day is actually Thursday. I'm sure some of you guys know. The Ivy League regular decisions are coming out in 2 days. So very, very, very interesting that we're having this conversation this week. And as many of you guys know, the admit rates are down to an all-time low. We don't expect them to get any higher this year. So yeah, this conversation that we're having very centered around these schools. And the reason why I bring this up is because there are plenty of schools that are not in the top 20 in the United States that are also quite good too. And the application process for you or those processes can look very different. So this is not like a blanket college admissions discussion. This is a very highly specific discussion towards very low admit rate universities as a disclosure. Before I talk a little bit about my high school experience, which is what I think most of you guys will be interested in, I'll briefly talk a little bit about my Princeton experience. I've actually changed my major 3 times since coming here. So one thing we'll talk a little bit about later is sort of application strategy and school selection. And that's one thing that I think was a big part of my own application process. I guess a little bit of disclosure though, I did apply to university, I think April of 2021 now. So it's been almost 4 years. I can't believe it's passed so fast. But that was when COVID was pretty much at its all-time high. So I spent the good part of my senior and junior year doing school virtually. And I think that affected a lot of things like the availability of summer programs and also various application related things. Like I think that's when a lot of universities at the top level actually made test optional a thing. Nowadays, I think they're slowly reverting away from that as well. So there are a little bit of nuances. We'll talk more about that in a second. And one of them was that at least for me, I changed my major 3 times. So I definitely didn't come in as the major that I applied as. I'll be graduating in May. I'm pretty involved on campus in a few clubs. I play a lot of chess. I play with the Princeton chess team. I like playing poker too. And I'm an officer in the Princeton Taiwanese American Students Association. So we run a lot of night markets and festivals for students. That was something that I also did in high school too, which I'll talk about. Then I do a lot of tutoring. I'm a head of an initiative at Princeton that goes to Trenton, which is a city near Princeton, each week, and we teach some. We teach middle school and elementary students, help them with their homework and whatnot. And then I guess a small little tidbit. Here's my email. If you're interested in a free tour for Princeton, if you're ever in the area, I can get you connected to students who give tours as part of the university's admissions process. I'll be graduating in May, so I won't be here anymore after that. But if you're ever in the area, then you can also reach out to me too, and I'm sure I can give you some pointers and things to go to.
That's very sweet of you to offer that, Alex.
Yeah, I think William's actually visiting like this weekend. So
Okay.
so I'll be taking him around. I'll be taking him and his mother around.
just out of curiosity, what are those three majors you switched?
Oh, so I came into Princeton as a East Asian Studies major, and then I switched over to their operations research and financial engineering major in the engineering department. And then I think I was economics for like a little bit before that. But then my sophomore year I declared math. So most universities, I mean, there are many exceptions. I think most universities at the top 10, top 20 level, don't require students to declare what they're interested in studying until maybe like their sophomore year or whatnot. That's pretty common. So
Okay. And I just want to FYI for everybody, these people might ask, since you shared with me and William, so your dad is from mainland China, right? Your mom
That's
is
right.
Taiwanese, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Central Florida. My parents met at UCF, which is the University of Central Florida, in like 1999. So I'm a pretty run-of-the-mill like ABC. That's my that's my background. Yeah, I'm also happy to answer any questions about Princeton resources, eating clubs, career services, campus housing, whatnot. Just email me and I'll get back to you pretty swiftly. Okay, so here are some, I guess, overall topics that I think I'll be covering today. Just brief discussion on my high school background, because I think the competitiveness of your area and your high school matter a lot. We'll talk about stats, class rank, AP classes, extracurriculars, I guess like the typical things on a high school student spreadsheet. I guess directly to results. I think I had to look a little bit, but because it's been so long, but yeah, this is a brief look at like what I got into or what I didn't get into. So I definitely didn't get into all the schools I applied to. I did withdraw my waitlist applications after, so I guess we'll never know what happened to those. But yeah, I did not get into all the schools that I applied to. I didn't apply to Harvard or Stanford though, but I guess it speaks to the idea that you only need one acceptance, right? So you can't attend two colleges.
Right.
So
don't be discouraged, right?
Yeah,
Even if you get deferred or rejected in the first round, because you may end up getting into a better school.
Yeah, of course. And I guess like one thing I'll note is that I actually applied to the University of Pennsylvania. So I applied to the Wharton School of Business, which I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with, as an early decision application. And I did not get it, and I got deferred. I think that was like one of my biggest mistakes in my college application cycle. I don't think I strategically used early decision and early application correctly. This is something that I definitely feed into some of the advice that I give to students that I help, and also just anyone I talk to college admissions about. So yeah, that's one thing I'll maybe touch on a little bit later. So yeah, I guess as another disclosure, I'm the first child in my family to apply to a university in America. So so I did not have a lot of help from my parents. My parents were actually really like nice. Like I think like they would have been happy if I went to school anywhere. So they had no expectations, but yeah, they weren't super familiar with the college admissions process, and I had to figure a lot of things out on my own. And yeah, that's one of the things I definitely made a mistake on. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Okay. All right, so high school background, we'll briefly go over this for those that are interested. I went to a public high school in the middle of Central Florida, 9th to 12th grade. Student body size around 750. I would say the school was predominantly Black, white, Hispanic. I think the Asian population is about 5% at my high school. So this is very different than probably some of the high schools that you guys attend. I think I have some even classmates at Princeton who came from public high schools, private high schools, magnet high schools with over 50% of their student body being Asian American. So yeah, it fluctuates a lot, and I think it does matter. But yeah, this is just my high school background. Matriculation estimation wise, I'd say more than half of the degree seeking students, they ended up going to UCF or UF. So these are state schools. I'd say less than 15% seek private options out of state. So, top 20, top 10s, whatnot.
Just want to quickly ask, your
yeah.
school is one of the top ones in the area, right?
Yeah, it was a great high school. Like I don't think I don't think I have too many critical things to say about Haggerty High School. I think I really enjoyed my high school experience. Sorry?
Yeah, just wanted to quickly comment, because it sounds like even though you're in Central Florida, it's actually very comparable. Like the schools, I'm sure today in attendance, a lot of the students probably are from either McLean or Langley, and could be TJ. But I know because my kids are from graduate from McLean, I can speak for our school, is about 700 per class. So it's similar, but although we have more counselors in our school. I know, William, your school, mainly you have more counselors as well, right? Your class size probably is about the
About
same.
8 counselors.
Okay, so it's
Yeah, I guess I
quite
can remark on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can remark on that a little bit too. So like the counselors that we had, they didn't really serve in any sort of college consulting capacity. They simply just wrote your like I think counselor letter, and they also made sure that you had your graduation requirements met. So they did nothing in the sense that they were not helping students with admissions for universities. I think that's one of the selling points for a lot of like private high schools, especially in the Northeast. That was not something that my school offered. So I guess, yeah, like every counselor, 5 or 6 of them, they had about 100 students each. So that
I
doesn't
know.
give a lot of like individualized attention for things, relating to
Right.
say like top 20 admissions.
Right, I agree on that point. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so class offerings, at least at my high school, they offered about 34 to 35 out of the 40 total AP classes, which is a good amount. I
Wow,
think,
that is good. A lot,
and
yeah.
Len told me that like that's actually more than some of the high schools in the area.
Definitely more than I think.
And I guess the disclosure is that the reason why is I think the high school that I went to was paid for every passing score they got on like AP exams, so they were incentivized to offer as many AP classes and have students
Oh,
as many of them as possible. So they receive funding based on that. Yeah, my high school is an AP class. Sorry, an AP high school. And yeah, there were other
very
high schools in my
generous.
area that were like IB class, like IB high schools as well. I'm not really sure if there's that distinction in Virginia, but that
Yes,
was
there is a distinction. Yes.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, there was that. I'd say many students also had dual enrollment options and virtual school options, so they could take classes online. We'll talk about that in a second as well. Math ended at AP Calc BC, AP Stat, so no options for multivariable, linear algebra, etc. Also important, I'll have a slide on that separately after this, I think, or maybe a little bit after. And then I guess one other note is that there's very little to no athletic recruitment activity to I think the elite universities. So like one thing that I think is different compared to a lot of maybe schools in the Northeast is that that's really not an option. So I guess today's conversation really won't touch on that because in my honest opinion, or sorry, in my honest experience, I have very little experience or knowledge with this side of like recruitment. So I will not speak on it, but it's not something that was in my high school. Okay, so I guess like the first sort of maybe my own experience discussion that I'll give in to is taking higher level math classes as a high schooler. So one thing, at least at Princeton, that I noticed is that when I sat for some of my introductory level classes, so like your college linear algebra, your real analysis or multivariable calculus, a lot of the students in my classes, probably almost 3/4 of them, had previous exposure to higher level math classes. So it's very common, at least at Princeton, and I'm sure at plenty of the other Ivies, for you to be with students that have taken or have had exposure to higher level math classes. And what I mean by that is classes that are beyond what most high schools offer. And now that being said, though, there are definitely high schools that offer classes like linear algebra or multivariable. I think there were a few students in my linear algebra class that were from TJ. And I think they have a multivariable class at TJ. So it definitely, changes depending on the school. So yeah, one thing I did during my high school years was to accelerate my math course trajectory as much as possible. I took classes over the summer to skip ahead of things. Might not be an option for you. Every high school has different, guidelines for that. So I finished Calc BC my junior year, pretty common for a lot of students here. And then I took multivariable calculus and linear algebra. So these were dual enrolled at a university close by. And then I took ordinary differential equations my senior spring. So I used my, I guess, resources because I think the high school, because High actually paid for your dual enrollment classes. They also paid for your AP exams too. So we'll talk about that in just a second, because that might be different from like your own experiences. But yeah, they paid for our exams.
They paid for a few. I think in Virginia,
yeah,
in our county,
they paid for everything. And the reason why this is important is because I took a lot of AP classes. So here's just a brief look at the classes that I took throughout my 4 years. I think I maybe even have missed 1 or 2, but I think I took over 20 AP classes.
Oh my goodness. Did you even sleep?
No, I didn't sleep that much my junior year, but with these classes, they paid for all the AP exams, so it made it decently worth it, I would say. Like I was able to get college credit for a lot of different, you know, universities. I guess like the one drawback is that if you do end up at, say, an Ivy, they actually don't care that much about any of your AP credits. So you'll have to retake a lot of the credits that you got from like these AP
Right,
tests.
yeah.
But like also that's not really that much of a problem. But yeah, like that's one small note. So I took these classes my 4 years. And I guess like one thing I'll say is that my high school was pretty unrestricted in terms of the class offerings that they gave us. And the reason why this is important is because I am very familiar with the fact that a lot of high schools restrict students in terms of what they're able to take and what they're not able to take. So one thing that I want to make clear is that if you didn't take, 20 AP classes or 15 AP classes, like that doesn't necessarily mean anything with respect to, what you're applying to or what, your admission odds are. I think at the end of the day, a lot of these a lot of these academic related admissions discussions should really center around like how strong your academic course load is relative to other students in your class. So if everyone in your class could only take 2 or 3 AP classes your sophomore year, then it is okay if you only took 2 or 3 AP classes because that was the requirement, right? Or like that was the restriction. So at least at Haggerty, there was no restriction. So that's why I was able to do this. But yeah.
I'm sure you're one of the top, right, to have taken most of the APs, I'm sure, in your school.
Yeah. And I think nowadays, even like I think my high school is more and more competitive nowadays. So like I think a lot of students are stacking up with schedules that are similar. But my friend group was mostly like in the top of the class, and I would say a lot of them also had pretty similar schedules as well. It wasn't like super different. I wouldn't say like I was, a super exception with my course load in high school. Yeah, and a brief discussion of some scores. I took the ACT once. Yeah, Haggerty also paid for all this stuff too. Really nice. I was pretty surprised to hear that a lot of schools actually don't pay for your exams and stuff. So maybe I'm just privileged. But yeah, I took the ACT once. I took the SAT twice. And then I think back when I was applying, they even had subject tests for math and chemistry and a lot of other subjects. So I took those, but they don't even offer those anymore. And I did make all A's in high school. So I had a 4.0 unweighted GPA. Our high school operated on a 4.0 scale. So you got like a 4.5 for honors classes and 5.0 for AP classes for an A. And I think my unweighted was something around a 4.7 or whatever. I don't remember the actual number, but it was something around that. And yeah, I was the top of my class. One thing to note is that if you look at the common data sets for example, like Harvard or Stanford, I would say that actually it's not even I would say like I think 73% of the incoming class had 4.0 GPAs in high school, so it's pretty common, at least at some of these universities. But one thing I really want to emphasize is that I believe that incredible academics will not get you into a school. They can only keep you out if they're bad, in the sense that I think that once you pass a certain bar, then it doesn't really matter that much anymore. So one thing that we'll talk about in a second is sort of like my weightings for what I think is like important or what things are considered. And you'll see pretty shortly that I actually don't think academics and test scores are like the most important, just because I think that, if they're not very good, then you can definitely be kept out because of it. But they certainly won't be admitting you because you had a 1580 versus a 1560 on the SAT. That just doesn't really matter right now. So I'm sure some of you guys are already familiar with this stuff. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, AP classes, I think I mostly got fives. And then I submitted, I think, most of the scores to Common App. Okay, extracurricular wise, we didn't have a really good way for students to participate in competitions like the AMC 10. Students were, basically told that they had to go out of their own way to take it. I did a good amount of things in high school. I was on the varsity tennis team for about 3 years, and then COVID kind of made the last year a little bit tough. I was in an Asian affinity group, so this community service volunteering group. We did a lot of things. We fundraised. We had toy drives. I think pretty typical, like, Asian community groups, or at least Asian youth community groups. They had a dragon boating team, so over the summer I would do dragon boating with my friends. So that was really fun. I was in first robotics, and then I also did a lot of tutoring. Like I did a lot of volunteering in high school, so I probably had over 1,000 hours when I graduated. I taught at a bunch of math clubs in my area, so I helped with some middle school and elementary school math counts / like math competition related things. And I guess like one thing I'll note is that like I don't think my extracurriculars were particularly outstanding. I think like they weren't poor, but I wouldn't say they were the reason why I got in. And I think that yeah, there's a lot to be said about, what extracurriculars can be outstanding and whatnot. So okay.
Mhm.
I guess a brief note on summer programs, because I did participate in like a summer research experience at a university close to me. But of course, I think during my COVID, filled junior summer, like, or sorry, I think it was, yeah, it was the summer before senior year. Like a lot of opportunities were shut down. So I think my experience with summer programs was definitely different. My family also did some traveling too, over the summer. So I think like one thing that a lot of high school students are interested in are like what sort of programs that they can be applying to or what they can be doing with their summer time. There could be probably a whole presentation on this. I've actually sort of had to educate myself on this process myself over the last few months, especially because I am helping some high schoolers nowadays. I believe it or not, I actually think this Reddit post that I found like 2 weeks ago is actually one of the most informative ones that I've ever seen. I definitely would screenshot this and check it out yourself. There's like a short list of like probably 100 different summer programs that kids can apply to. Some of them are paid, some of them are not. And I think, those are definitely things that you should check out. I wish I had this resource when I was in high school. There was like, I think it would have saved me a lot of pain. Oh, can I share my 5 awards on the CA? Yeah, sure. I think I don't even remember them off the top of my head. I think I had a science fair regional award. I think I'm a National Merit Scholar. But yeah, I think I put that on there. I had a presidential volunteer award too. And honestly, I forgot the other two. I'll probably have to look, but if you email me later, I can check for you. But I wouldn't say like my awards were particularly exceptional in the sense that, I wasn't first chair for an orchestra, of a state orchestra. I didn't make the USAMO. I didn't qualify for ISEF, those kinds of things. We'll talk about that in a second, actually. But yeah, thanks for asking. I actually forgot to put that. But yeah, that's like kind of one of the things that I hope you take away from this presentation today, because I think that while I guess academically, okay, yeah, I should share it in the chat. Let me see if I can do that. Ooh. Okay, I'll put it in after. Sorry, I'll have to get out of presenter mode.
Or,
I'll make sure.
if you
Sorry?
can take I mean, for the audience members, if you can take a picture, so that's
试
another
试看
way.
能不能录下来。
Yeah, give me a second. Wait, I can put it in the chat. I think it's important enough.
Okay. 这个 recording 之后会在我们的 website 上面
Yeah.
对 available
对。
的，对，然后给所有的这个 member 都是可以有 access.
Yeah, so I think they have a bunch of different programs. I'm sure you guys have heard of some of them. MIT has a lot of programs for STEM related things, primes, mites. There's also SSP as well. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before, but those are things you can look at on your own time. Yeah, so there's also other programs like QuestBridge. I think these are things that everyone should definitely check out and see if they qualify for. A lot of students, at least at Princeton, are actually QuestBridge
就是每
scholars.
天那个 notes 能看一下。
Okay. Sorry, someone was unmuted. Okay. So anyways, yeah, these are things I would definitely check out because if your family qualifies for them or if your student qualifies for them, then they could be very advantageous for you. Actually, a lot of my close friends at Princeton are QuestBridge scholars. So definitely a program that helped them a lot. So basically, I think in short, QuestBridge is I think it's a low income program where they match students from low-income backgrounds, first-generation college backgrounds with elite universities. So Princeton's actually a QuestBridge school. I think Columbia is one as well, but that's definitely a program that everyone should at least look at if they may qualify. Okay, so I guess now we're talking about some weightings. So these are kind of my thoughts. I am going quite fast, I would say. I know, but part of that is because I do have a good amount of information. I think you guys can just look at the recording after if you have, things that you want to look back on. So here's a list of things that I think matter and sort of what their weightings are. So I've talked a lot about, what I think factors are with college admissions with my friends, and this is sort of what we collectively gave weightings to. So okay, so I split the things into two categories. So I would say there's things that are within your control, and then there are things that are not within your control. So of course, both of the categories will sum to 100%. And I guess, depending on how rigorously you score yourself, you can end up somewhere else, or you can end up with a different result. But you would give yourself like a score out of the percentage. So in this case, we'll start. So I think extracurriculars are actually the most important with respect to things that are in your control. So I think these are, making sure that you have leadership positions. Yeah, you're participating in, rigorous competitions or, activities. So these could be sports, athletics. It doesn't just have to be academic. And then essays, I would say, is a quarter as well. In my opinion, I think my spikes were my essays. I think I wrote pretty decent essays for my university admissions process. I would say that's about 25%. I think academics and test scores are about 20%. So it's actually like not a crazy amount, but I think again, like I mentioned earlier, it's something that can not it can hold you back from getting in, but I don't think it can get you through the door. It can get you in the doorway though. So yeah, I'd say about 20%. I'd say major and school selection strategy, it's about 10%. So I give one very brief example of this. I think it's something that a lot of students actually don't consider. So, as everyone knows, there are, certain schools that are more prestigious than others. So a lot of students, for example, in the Orange County region in Los Angeles, they will be gunning for Stanford. A lot of their parents want them to apply to Stanford. So a lot of their early decision applications will be sent there. And I think that to some extent that this is kind of a mistake, because I think that there are many not equally maybe, but there are many like very prestigious schools that are much less competitive than Stanford is. So using your early decision or early application to send your application to a school like Duke or Vanderbilt or Cornell, something that's just less competitive, I think is definitely something that can impact your probabilities and your outcomes at the end of the day. So that's why. Oh, why did I select UPenn ED? Okay, see that's a good question. And the answer is I really shouldn't have because I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, so I mentioned earlier that that's one of the things I regret doing because, to be very frank, like I didn't really know like, picking schools that were, less or more competitive. I wouldn't say that I had a good background for Wharton. I didn't have, the extracurriculars to match with the program that I was applying to, and that was a mistake. So yeah, I don't think that's a why really, but it's more like, yeah, I shouldn't have applied to Penn. If I could redo my application process, that's probably something that I would have changed. But
So Alex, I think in your case, it's not because you selected Penn, but more because you select Wharton, right? To apply for Wharton.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's true too.
why.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. I think like
major, maybe you would have been
I
accepted.
agree. I think upon reflection, like if I were to apply to Penn, it should have been to the School of Engineering and Arts and Sciences as either a math major or like an electrical engineering major, but certainly not Wharton though. So
But
yeah.
all it worked out in the end very well.
Yeah, I mean it did. You only need one school to select you, So
Right.
so it did work out at the end of the day. Okay. And I guess like one thing I'll briefly mention, because I think I haven't mentioned it yet, is that you'll see a lot of high schoolers, or not high schoolers, you'll see a lot of college students like myself today that are in Ivies or that are in prestigious schools. They'll talk about their admissions experience, but at the end of the day, I have a very limited scope of experience in the college admissions world. So a lot of the things that I'm telling you right now should still be taken with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, I have never worked in an admissions office before, and I only know my experience, or sorry, I only know the college admissions process from my own experience. And it's a very limited experience, I would say, because I think if you asked me, I think a big part of the reason why a lot of students get into Princeton is because they got lucky, right? And that's not really something that you can control. So yeah, I
think you were
definitely
being very modest, and also because
definitely
you
want to
shared
say
with
that.
me, you
Sorry?
helped a few. You also told me that you helped a few students, right? Maybe later if you have
Yeah. In the
share
last few
some of
years,
those cases.
especially the last two admission cycles, I've actually helped some students with their admissions to elite schools, and I'm actually waiting for two students right now. So this Thursday, we'll see what happens.
Oh, really? Okay. Good luck.
Yeah. Okay. And then rec letters and interviews, another 10%. I think having a strong letter of recommendation from a teacher definitely can help you. And it's definitely something within your control. So make good connections with your teachers or debate coaches or whatnot. And then you have things that are not within your control. So the first category, I would say, exceptional awards. We'll clarify that in a second. So I guess examples of that are like the USAMO or like, being a national debate champion, whatnot. Legacy, I would say, is another thing that does matter. I wouldn't say it matters a lot, but it does matter a little bit. Obviously, you can't choose who your parents are. So, that's not something that is within your control. I think that the competitiveness of your region relatively is a huge factor. I might even give it more than 25%. So this is, the region that you're in. So like, for example, if you are in a highly competitive region, like, Orange County in LA, where my roommate is from, for example, then I think it's going to be a lot harder for you to stand out. Like, for example, the high school that he went to is a public magnet. Rec letters, well, I think that rec letters are in your control because it's up to you to make connections with the teachers, right? Like it's teachers that are writing your recommendation letters. So I think that like, you should be engaging with them, doing well in classes, and making sure that like they know who you are because they're probably writing letters for plenty of students. So I think that like that's definitely more in your control than whether your parents went to Harvard or not, right? So yeah, that's why I would say like they're under your control. Like these are things that like you're able to control. I mean, I guess like you're not writing the actual letter, but hopefully you have a good enough relationship with the teacher that they'll write you a good one, right? So I guess like maybe they there are some cases where they might not write the best letter, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, competition of region I think is pretty important. And like yeah, my roommate, he went to Troy High School. It's like this magnet high school in LA. I think they had 7 valedictorians this year or 8, something like that. Very competitive. Definitely harder to stand out. Demographics, I think, are also incredibly important too. So I think many of you are familiar with, affirmative action, sort of the discussions that have been happening with the Supreme Court decision and whatnot. This presentation and also what I'm talking about is not my stance on affirmative action. That's not something that I think is super important to discuss today. But this is just sort of something that definitely impacts a student's, I think, admit prospects. So for example, like if you are from an underrepresented minority background and you are applying to a field in which you are underrepresented in, then I think it is definitely advantageous for you. So for example, like if you are an Asian male that is applying as a computer science major to MIT, then that is not something that will be helping you in the sense that there are going to be many high achieving, outstanding USACO Asian American males that are also trying to pursue computer science at MIT as well. Okay, sorry, that was someone was unmuted. Okay, I'd say like these factors all add up to 100% for a total score of about 200%. And then based on the score that you get, then there's some rough probabilities of what we think a student's likelihood is of an acceptance. Again, these are just like, rough guesses. Honestly, like they might not mean anything. So yeah, I guess a clarification before we show these probabilities. So I think the reason why I would say that exceptional awards are somewhat not in your control is because I think that to some extent, to be very exceptional in certain things, Olympiads, nationally ranked debate champions, whatnot. I think these are things that, for example, let's say like you're a sophomore in high school that is listening to me right now, right? And like you decide that, you want to attain one of these exceptional awards. It'll be very hard for you in the sense that the students that you're competing with often have a lot of resources. So for example, their parents have been taking them to math competition training classes since they were in middle school. And they'll often be just much better at math than you, like intrinsically speaking, in the sense that like to be in the top 250 students in the nation is exactly that. Like there are only 250 students that are going to be able to do that. And I think that like to some extent that's not actually in your control. Like you can work really hard, but still not end up there like 99 out of 100% of the time. So yeah, so these are a few of the exceptional awards that I think would qualify for that like 35%. And then here are some like rough probabilities, I would say. I think, yeah, these are, again, take these with a grain of salt. We came up with these in like maybe half an hour. So I think that like if you add up your scores and then like you sum up to over 170%, then for example, like we think that like you have probably over a 75% chance of getting into like a Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, or MIT. Now that being said though, I think that there are very few students that are over 170%. I was nowhere near over 170%, if I'm being honest. I was not even close. And yeah. So I guess you could take a screenshot of this, maybe think about it a little bit, but I'm not gonna spend too much more time talking about this because I don't think it's like super important, but just wanted to give some rough, I guess, probabilities and weightings for things for maybe families to consider that are not familiar with this process. Any advice on getting a positive counselor's rec letter? I think it really depends on the high school that you're at. It depends a lot on how many students that your counselor has. Like for example, at my high school, there were 100 students per counselor, and I think like it's going to be pretty hard for a student to be able to stand out in that field unless like they're in the top portion of their class. But I think it really depends on your high school background for that question that was asked in the chat.
And I just wanted to quickly chime in here in terms of counselor's rec letter, since I have my older child is in college right now. And I do think it's very important to maintain a great relationship. I think that's probably the number one thing. A lot of our students probably don't want to think it's brown nosing. You know, why do I need to go to the counselor's office? If there's a possibility, if the student can just drop by, right, to strike a conversation, I think the relationship building is very important. And student can ask counselor what kind of help they can offer. For example, like my older child, and she would just ask this teacher, yeah, like what kind of help. So she just told her, like, oh, you know, I have a new student coming in. Would you be willing to show the new student? So I think because of the one or two things, the counselor remembered her. So another thing, I know a lot of school, you submit a brag sheet, right, before the counselor start writing your recommendation.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a good rap
All
sheet
schools-
or a brag sheet.
Exactly. When per counselor, there's so many students. It's very hard for counselor to even remember you sometimes. This spreadsheet can be you can just put as many detail and even stories as you want. So the counselor many times they would include some of those. Yeah, I'll just stop here and back to you, Alex.
Sure. I guess like another thing that definitely should be touched on is that you or your student, if you're in high school yourself, you should ask yourself what you want to pursue post-grad, because I think that it definitely will impact the schools you apply to, what you want to study. And I think that, for example, like if you want to pursue something in high finance, so this could be trading, private equity, consulting, law school. Actually, law school is not finance, but you know what I mean. I think that the Ivies or like the elite colleges are definitely the place for that. But for example, if you wanted to pursue medical school, then I actually don't think a school like Princeton is a good fit in the sense that I have a lot of students or a lot of friends that are at Princeton right now that just applied to med school. And I think if you asked them like if Princeton was a pre-med friendly university, they would say no, like really fast. I think that it really depends on your post-grad plans for like what you apply to. So at least in my own experience, I knew I wanted to pursue something in finance or software engineering. So a school like Princeton or a top school was definitely a good fit for me in terms of getting me access to, opportunities or like a good network. So like that's definitely something to mention. Okay, I guess like I was recommended to maybe include a little bit of an essay that I wrote. I don't, it's not the full essay, but like I guess this is just an example of like what I think definitely helped me with my applications. So I would say one of my spikes for my own admissions process was like the essays that I wrote. Yeah, like I wrote this letter to Cornell. I think they had like a School of Engineering, Arts and Sciences, like 650-word essay that I wrote. I think they might even use the same prompt nowadays. But yeah, I wrote this letter and I think it's definitely something that helped me. I did get into Cornell. I think they sent me a likely letter in like March, like early March or something. But yeah, I wrote this letter that basically was a lot shorter than their required word count. And I kind of just talked about something that I was interested in like the field of like psychology. So it looked like, it was something that was effective, but definitely something that, every student can probably will be thinking a lot about starting in May. If you are a if you are a high school junior right now. But honestly, if you're in middle school or if you're like a freshman or a sophomore in high school, then I don't think this is something you should be thinking about until, maybe like the last 2 years. So don't worry, this is not something that you'll have to be concerned with until a lot later. But yeah, I guess I wanted to at least briefly mention this. And I think like with respect to like the admissions process in terms of like someone being able to help you, I think that the essays are definitely the place where you can really make the most impact if you are, not able to, for example, in the span of 1 year, start a new club or like, get involved in something. So I think like your essays are probably one of your last places where you can really impact your probabilities for admissions. I think I'm gonna probably skip over the financial aid stuff, like you said, Lon. But yeah, I guess like everyone should probably be aware of that. Some of these schools are pretty expensive, at least Princeton or Cornell. I think this is Columbia, actually. I pulled this right off of their website. It's like $90,000 a year. So yeah, I think families should definitely check out their net price calculators and see how much it would cost. But yeah, I'm gonna skip over this. I don't think it's as important, but it was something that I thought about a lot when I was in high school because I ended up picking Princeton mostly because they actually offered me a full ride for their financial aid package. So like that was my own like influence, or like that was like the biggest thing that influenced me. And I think that it should definitely be something that students consider. Okay, I guess like very briefly, I'll just give some advice for students that are interested in STEM, very condensed advice. So these are things that I think that students are able to do that can help them maybe stand out a little bit. So as I mentioned earlier, I think that you should be taking the most competitive class offerings in your high school. So like these could be the AP classes for sciences or for math. I think that if you're able to, taking higher level math classes, it's definitely something that you should look into. Now, of course, if you're not interested in studying STEM, then definitely also, you probably don't need to do that. But yeah, taking competitive class offerings. So, if you're able to pick classes, then that's good. I think that students should also definitely be dabbling in programming. I think there are very few jobs right now, white collar jobs in technology and finance, that do not consider coding to be a highly valuable skill. There are many free tutorials online. You do not need to pay for any classes. These are things that are open sourced and can definitely help you build up skill sets for not just college admissions, but also for, future career development things as well. So I think that's definitely something I would recommend. I think competitional programming is definitely something that students that are interested in STEM should do as well. I think like AMC 10, AMC 8, 12 practice is also good too. So like just, beefing up your math and computational ability. So yeah, I think these are basic things that students can get themselves interested in, or like, they can dabble with, and then maybe it can further, your own projects or maybe a club at school. So yeah, summer programs are also pretty good too. The link I sent earlier is quite good. Definitely should check that out. I think that they can definitely beef up a student's application. So also can get them connected with professors, and also I think like, people that can write rec letters or help you out with applications. And then of course I should include some things for students interested in humanities, because I think for the most part, like this presentation has been pretty STEM oriented, just because that was my own experience. But of course I'll have some stuff for people that don't want to pursue that. I think that you should not slack on your STEM classes. Like of course, like, if you want to be a lawyer, then, you probably don't need to take multivariable calculus. But you still should not be slacking on your STEM classes just because they show rigor and the ability to be intellectually curious to admissions officers. These are some extracurriculars that I think are really good for students that are interested in humanities: debate, model UN, quiz ball. I think also something that I've seen recently is working in political campaign offices for politicians. So you could be a page or for a senator or like a congressman or woman. That's something that I've seen a good amount of. And these are all resources or opportunities that you can find more information for online. There's also this competition that I heard of recently called World Quest. It's like an international affairs competition. I think it's quite good. Definitely check that out. There's also a bunch of essay competitions too. So yeah, these are some examples of essay competitions that I think students that are interested in humanities can pursue. Okay, I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. I know that was a good amount of information. I do have like one last slide here about some of the consulting services that I actually offer myself with some friends. So we actually have a pretty unique, I would say, it's like structure. So we help students that are in high school. We actually don't charge anything in the sense that we will not charge students or families until their kid gets into a school that is outlined in a contract. So in the sense that we'll basically be working with students for free. And we actually have students that are working with us right now, or actually, I guess they're waiting for admissions, like I said, like 2 of them on Thursday. So I have a group of students at Princeton that we look at essays, we give admissions advice, and we can answer like any sorts of questions that you might have. So yeah, I'm personally very against the very lucrative fee structures that a lot of companies probably that you have heard of, they charge. I think that it is very, I'm not gonna say deceptive. I just think that like it's very, I don't like making promises to parents that I can't keep. So I think like this way, like I'm able to keep that part of my conscience clean, and I'm also able to provide support to a student, and they'll know that my fate is tied into their hands because if they don't get into anything, then I won't get paid. So yeah, this is something that I do. And yeah, I guess we have like 10 minutes left. I figured we could do a bit of a Q&A. People have already answered put some questions in the chat. I'm sure William has some questions too, but yeah, my contact information's on the screen. If you have any questions, please reach out.
So, William, could you help to fill the questions?
Yeah, so before I mention anything in the chat box, I do have a question myself.
Mm-hmm.
So like how did you balance like academics and extracurriculars and like personal time during high school? Like
I don't think I had a lot of personal time, to be honest. I slept for like maybe 4 or 5 hours every night, so it definitely came at a price. You really can't have everything or do everything. Uh, um, I I spent a lot of my time at school and also at home just working through schoolwork or homework. So I wouldn't really say I had a life outside of like academics and extracurriculars. There was not a lot of balancing, I would say.
And someone asked in the chat box, were there any summer internships that you did as a high
Yeah,
school student?
I worked at a lab near my home when I was in my sophomore year, I think. So I did like some research with a professor in a mechanical engineering lab. And I think as I mentioned, like my junior summer, I think it was the COVID summer. So definitely, I think I stayed home for most of that summer. I didn't do anything over those 3 months.
And someone else said in Princeton, full ride is merit-based or
It
financial?
is completely financial aid based, so it is need dependent, which is why a lot of, for example, middle to I think upper middle class families like applying to these schools because, for example, at Princeton, if your family makes under 120,000 a year, you will, I think, be full ride like applicant. Like I think almost all your entire cost of attendance will be taken care of by the financial aid services. So. Yeah, and there are no merit-based scholarships at most of these schools. So I think when I say most of these schools, I mean like I think all the Ivies have the same policy. There are no merit-based scholarships. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you can't get scholarships. There are plenty of them. I'm sure you've heard of some of them. I think that generally after students apply to schools, I think in the September, October, time frame during this junior year, they'll spend the next like 3 or 4 months applying to scholarships that can reduce their cost of attendance. So these are like local scholarships, state scholarships, even national level scholarships too. So yeah. But school-based wise, like the merit based, like the aid is completely need based.
So let's see what else.
Oh, my research awards. That's what I was saying earlier. Like I didn't have those things. So I did the AMC, and I think I was in the AME for like 1 year, but I didn't do super well on that. And I did not qualify for ISEF. I was in like I think like the best I did was like I think some honorable mention at my regional science fair. So I know I didn't have those things. So yeah. Um, I sent the summer link. I sent the link into the chat. I mean, I'll send it again. I think maybe you joined a little later, but here's the link that I would definitely go to. There's like hundreds of links. I haven't even looked through the whole document. Some admissions counselor posted like all these programs that you can apply to. So I thought it was really good. Really good resource. how easy it is to switch your major once you're admitted, really easy. I walked to my dean's office, handed him a transfer paper, and he said, "Okay, you're good. Congratulations. You're in the College of Engineering now." And then 3 months later, I went back in and I said, "I'm leaving." And he was like, "Okay, that's okay." And he handed me a form and I transferred out. Now I'm a math major. So at least at Princeton, it's very easy. At other schools, it might be a lot harder. So like, for example, like, if you apply to the University of Pennsylvania as a nursing studies major, you will not be able to transfer into Wharton for the most part. So it depends on the college, but at least at Princeton, it's very easy to change. How much a well-known private high school like Phillips Academy? I mean, I have friends that come from Exeter, that come from Andover. That definitely does help. But I think that it's very dependent on your family's financial resources. I think it's like what, $50,000 or $60,000 a year for some of those for some of those schools. I personally don't think it helps as much as some people think it does. But yeah, it's really dependent on like what the student wants to study and also like the resources that the family has. Any good summer camps in Princeton? Not that I'm aware of. I think there are a lot of research opportunities for high schoolers potentially on campus, but like that would be something that a high schooler has to check out and reach out to professors for themselves. Which philosopher do I like the most? Oh, oh. I wouldn't say I do a lot of reading from philosophy. I mean, I do a lot of reading in the social sciences. There's this Canadian journalist. His name's Malcolm Gladwell. I've read a lot of his work. I like him a lot. He's not a philosopher. He's no Kant though, but I like him. How do I answer why us? I think it's very different for every college, Like I think for Princeton, I wrote Princeton a love letter, actually. So yeah, it can be you have to be creative, I think. You definitely want to spread your eggs across the board. You don't want to I actually don't think it's good for students to apply to all the schools with the same profile. You should switch out some things. Different essays, different majors, different extracurriculars. You have like 10 extracurriculars you can put for like the Common App. So do I think Princeton fits me well? Yeah, I think I mean, besides it being one of the better schools in the country, I think that like I don't think I'd be happier elsewhere. Like I think the last 4 years at Princeton have been like the best in my life, or at least so far. But yeah, no, I'm very happy here. I don't think I'd be happier anywhere else. What's my suggestion on brainstorming for the main essay? Let's see. I think you have to like think a lot about sort of the story that you want to tell. So college admissions officers are trying to build a comprehensive class profile. So they don't want a whole school full of computer science majors. They want students that are interested in politics, as much as students that are interested in math or computer science. So you should ask yourself like what kind of story you want to tell. And I think like it's a very complicated question if I'm being honest though. So that's a very maybe not a helpful answer to that. But I think that like you should definitely talk to your friends and seniors or people that have already applied and maybe get, maybe what they did. So like one thing that probably would have helped me a lot when I was in my college applications process was if I could have seen examples of essays that, admitted students wrote. So that's one thing that, at least with the students that I work with, that's one thing that I do. I have a bank of applications from students that are at Princeton that I give to students that I work with just to show them like examples of applications. Anyone read my essays? I actually worked with one of my close church friends for like 3 weeks on my essays over winter break, but that was it. So it was just me and this childhood friend. We were on Zoom for like, 8 hours at night sometimes just writing these things. So no, I didn't get any like professional help, but I had a lot of fun writing them with my friend. Did I get deferred? Oh, no, I didn't. I got in through regular. And it also wouldn't be deferred. Regular decisions would be waitlisted, I think. No, I got in through the regular decisions. Like I didn't get waitlisted, so I just got in directly. My lesson from early admissions for Penn, I think I already mentioned it. I just think that like I applied as the wrong major. I shouldn't have applied to Wharton, and I think that like that definitely skewed sort of my process. 2 sentences. What is the reason why Princeton was interested in you? I think I demonstrated some amount of creativity in my essays and some commitment to serving my community. So like I even at Princeton, to this day, I still like volunteering. I didn't just volunteer because it was something that I thought could get me into college. I still volunteer at Princeton. And yeah, so I
I do feel so
interested
too,
in
because
that.
that 1,000 plus volunteer hours, that's kind of not that common, to be honest. So
How much do I
that,
charge for counseling? Oh, I think I mentioned it earlier. I don't actually charge anything until students get into schools. So I think like the pricing, at least for students that I have worked with so far, it does vary. So I don't think I can give you like a fixed price for that. But I don't charge students that don't get into schools that that they wanted to get into. So yeah. Do I recommend professional consulting services on college applications for everyone? Pretty controversial question. I actually don't. I think that like a lot of students, a lot of services, they overcharge on the advice that they give. I think that generally speaking, it's a field where, a lot of parents and students are being taken advantage of. So I don't think that everyone should do it. I think that it really depends on your student, how driven they are, and also like what they want to apply to. I think that it's definitely helpful to have someone look over your essays, but that's not necessarily something that you know you need to pay someone for. So just make sure your kid has someone reading over their essays. They shouldn't be sending essays out without
so
eyes on.
Alex, since we're running a little bit over time, how about you take the one last question? You can pick
Yeah,
anyone.
I'll take one last question. Let's see. It's a lot of good questions. I'll answer the fun one from Rachel. Rachel asks great questions. I like these questions. Do students date a lot at Princeton? Yeah, I think they do. I think Princeton actually has one of the highest rates of marriage at the Ivy League. I actually I met my girlfriend at Princeton. And yeah, I think at least in my case that there was some dating. I mean, I didn't date before Princeton. She was but yeah, a lot of students they meet their first partners at Princeton. I think it's pretty common. I guess quickly, like I didn't have I had like 2 or 3 interviews, but I wouldn't say like I did a lot to prepare. I just made sure like I could answer, very clearly like why I wanted to apply to the school that they're interviewing me for. But a lot of the times, like the interviewers are like alumni, and they're also like in your region. Sometimes there are no alumni in your region, so you don't even get an interview opportunity. And it doesn't even matter like that much at the end of the day. I think like after I graduate from Princeton, they'll actually ask me to interview prospective candidates. I think like alumni actually get asked that like pretty frequently. So yeah.
All right. I know that, it seems that there are so many questions and so much interest, but we're a little bit over time already.
Yeah.
Since everybody has Alex's contact information, you guys are welcome to follow up with him with any further questions. So I wanted to just, Alex, do you have any other thoughts, or you're
No,
good?
I think that's it.
Okay.
For
Yeah,
me.
I just wanted to wrap up by saying thank you so much, everyone, for participating tonight. I hope you found the presentation to be helpful and insightful. It is always wonderful to have somebody who have gone through the process, especially like Alex, successfully. And at the same time, he's also helping other students to achieve their goals as well. I know that IB Day will be in 2 days. Best luck to you, Alex, and your students.
Of course.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Alex, for being such a fantastic resource, and then for, huge thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to share your expertise with us. I also wanted to give a special shout out to William for helping me out and for facilitating tonight, make it run more smoothly. And in the end, I want to just stress that Capa Nova is here to support you, whether you have any needs related to education or advocacy, and we encourage you to become a member if you're not one yet. And people ask me about the membership fees. We have the basic membership fee is, I think around $30. So please check us out. And you're how involvement will make a huge difference. You know, with the price of a cup of coffee, you can have access to all our seminars and video recording to a lot of the past events. So with that, I wanted to, I don't know whether Yuyan is still on the online. So anyway, I will just wrap up by saying good night and thank you everyone, and hope to see you at our next Capa Nova activity.
Yes, good night all. Thanks for
Good
coming.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye Yuyan. Bye
Bye.
Alex. Bye William.
Thank you. Bye.